as soon as it fades up from black.
Oh, as soon as it goes from black. What's up, guys? Here we are with Paulo Pappas on Wednesday, February 26, 2025 at 1:04 p.m. Eastern Time. Paul and I have had rather unholy discussions the last two times we've chatted. I'm going to move the window a little bit because I can see two versions of myself. I don't actually really know anything about you, Apollo. So for everybody listening, yeah, no, this is my buddy Apollo. We spoke, I think, last week about we were supposed to have some like technical call about OBS. We ended up talking about norovirus and shitting near lethal levels of body fluids out of our ass. And then we spoke again the other day, and I think we still didn't do anything. I think we talked about what if there was like an artisanal, like niche community that took like really tasteful cinematic 8K video of porta potties, full porta potties. And so that's so now you guys are caught up. That's about as much as I know about Apollo, as we've both extensively uh and with scheduling time out of our day talked about shit on camera looking at one another. So
It's a niche intellectual community.
yeah.
I want to thank you for being a part of it with me. But yeah, I don't know. What do you want to know about me? I actually I'm terrible about this because I hate talking about myself.
Yeah, no, I don't give a fuck, dude. We don't have to. It's fucking me up because I'm seeing two versions of myself. So I'm just gonna pull it over here, whatever. But where did it go? Yeah, I don't care, dude. Yeah, no, we can keep talking about shit. I think that's kind of the nature of this whole thing, though. Is it's almost like a microcosm in that the best shows. Oh, let me put it this way: the worst shows are the ones where people want bullet points. That want to say we're talking about this, that, the other thing. That I mean, legitimately, are awful. There's no fun. There's no elasticity. It's a production and it just sucks. And you can do productions. You can do bullet point questions and topics. But if you're gonna do that, man, you have to have something that makes the juice worth the squeeze. If you're gonna do something like that, you better be talking to a president or someone famous, and it better be wildly well produced and funny. But if you're not doing that, you don't have access to those people. You've got to make your thing stick out with what you do have, and that's got to be a fun conversation. And it's dawning on me more and more that I think that is the entire nature of, for me, building a podcast. But what I imagine is building any business, is that the thing you crave, which is stability and certainty and predictability, which I understand in 9 to 5 jobs where you like, okay, I have insurance, I don't like it, but hey, I know where the paycheck's coming from, I know where I can pay everything. You But what you also want is like what I wanted, and why I kind of embarked on this whole thing was just the freedom and the creativity to do whatever I want. And 5 years and 1,700 episodes later, because I'm functionally retarded and I've only now realized it, you can't really have both. If you want the wild and cool, I'm my own boss, I talk to people for a living, you don't get the guaranteed income and the dental insurance. And I'm kind of now realizing that if I want it to be, the sporadic greatness of what I think are, free flowing shows, you also don't get that life jacket of having a bullet point list. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm going to still keep bitching about it because I feel like that is the most human thing to do, is address a problem, address its irrationality, and then continue to do what you're doing anyway. So that's all I have, is really trying to understand the. I'll put it this way: my buddy sent me a meme the other day, and it was just, it's just whatever. It's, two like gangsters walking, and it's like me and my homies going to repeat the same cycles of self sabotage so that we have a semblance of control in this uncaring world. And I think that's the best way to put it. Is
I
it's
like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, no, me too. Like, no, that is because it's really the only like blanket you have, is I know I'm a fuck up and I eat too much pizza. and then I diet it off. If you have that to sink your teeth into, you don't fall into the existential like bad acid trips of like, what is conscious? Why am I here? Is this really a test? What is heaven and hell really? Fuck. I mean, the world is predicated upon peace right now, but the majority of human civilization has just been wanton slaughter. I mean, is it coming net? When is it coming? And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's a better or worse peek into my head. So that's kind of what I've been
No,
toying with
I
lately.
think that's a good intro, and some of the stuff you're talking about. I mean, because you say you don't know about a lot about me, and I realize that that's true actually. As much as I'm on camera and like producing shows, and I'm like, skeebity bopping around with Joe when we're on air all the time, and I've actually like never really liked, like a public eye.
Yeah.
I have no problem being with it. I just like get up there and I don't care. But I produced Joe's show since 2021 after I started with him with this whole Coomer thing. Before that, I was doing like weird stuff when Antifa was all out because we were going out to all the riots and doing our best to like support police and things like that. When I was, more like invested in the Matrix, I wanted to be a doctor.
Okay.
And then I realized that I hate modern medicine.
Yeah.
So that was my original like life track I had when I was coming out of high school. I was either okay, I'm gonna go to the military, or I'm gonna go to med school. And I was really leaning towards military because I was like, I don't know what the heck I want to do. Um, and I was like super close. I still have to this day a Marine Corps handbook that I like that was issued the year that I graduated high school, and it was kind of my dad. Um, you know, he's an immigrant from Greece, and I have a bunch of younger siblings. I'm the oldest of six, and my dad's older, and he was just like, "You're too smart for that. Don't be a malaka," which is basically like, don't be a fucker, and don't be stupid. Go for the money. Like, don't embarrass us. And I had this like, oh, my dad, this kind of complex in my head at that age,
He's giving you
and I
the
was like, all
father
right,
blessing.
fine. Yeah, like legitimately, I was like ready to walk into a recruitment office and be like, let me go like die maybe, but which was funny because I like was a huge, I was hugely opposed to the military industrial complex from a very young age. So it was this weird like kind of split I had mentally already, but I also had this like desire to go do something and like just sink myself in a routine. It made no sense. Like I look back at it, I'm like, you're retarded. But then I was like, okay, I won't disappoint my family, and I got to take care of my kids because my dad's old, and I'm worried about my siblings having to take care of themselves later. So I went to medical school, and then I found that to be a disaster, and I couldn't stand it. And I think doctors are either stupid or evil on average. And so then I bounced around a few times, and somehow I ended up in Denver, back in 2018.
You never told me you went to medical school. You've never told me that.
I shouldn't say that. I was going to go. I didn't actually go to medical school.
Yeah.
I may have misspoke just there. That was my track, though.
I got you.
I was doing well, and then I was like, no, I don't think I want to do this anymore because I had family members who were in medicine, and a few of them, like I talked to a few of them, they're like, yeah, here's the deal, bro. Like all your stuff with like vaccines and this and that and the other thing, you don't agree with this stuff. Like you can go, but you're not gonna have a job because all the things that you wanted to do, which was like neonatology, OBGYN, um, I had a couple specialties that I was really leaning towards, and they were like, "Yeah, you're gonna need a job at a major hospital if you're gonna do anything with that, and they're gonna fire you because you're not gonna
Immediately.
follow protocols." So, I mean, you can do that and spend all that money in those years to go to school, but like, I don't think it's gonna work for you. So finally, I was like, "Okay, fine, I won't do it."
No, it's not a. I spent 4 years in college studying around the clock, and I got into medical school, and then I decided not to go. And I look back at the time, I just wasn't happy. But I look back at it now, and like, man, the very thing that tanked the podcast off iTunes and YouTube, and I mean most internet-based services was like doing these episodes about the COVID vaccine. And now it's like, okay, I lost out on revenue on YouTube. Do you know how much it would fucking suck if I like did all that and was footing like 600 grand in tuition
Yeah.
from Miami Medical School.
Yeah,
That
it's
was like
rough.
80,000 a year in 2013 when I got in. Like, so I would have been fucked. But I think about what you said about the military, and like, like it is like at its face value, it's just like no, like it is evil to go out and just like go slaughter and make money. Like I think most rational people agree with that. But in many ways, I do look at it almost similar to medicine in that, like when I first decided I wanted to be a doctor, it was because it was the first day of my second year of college. So I fucked off my first year. I moved into a frat house on my 20th birthday, and like my dad helped unpack. And I remember he just went like he just said like you have 3 more years. Good luck. And I ripped like a gravity bong of some shitty synthetic weed that I'm surprised didn't kill me at the time. I think now it's banned from the U.S. And I got way too high.
What
And
was that, like Spice? The
Spice,
K2 stuff?
South Georgia K2, yeah, from the gas station. And I got
Yeah,
way
I
too
remember I
high.
had friends in college, they were doing that and they would like trip out and
Dude, someone else
do some
at
weird stuff.
University of Georgia did it. Some football player did it, and he's paralyzed. He's still paralyzed. So my point is I got way too high, and then was like, "Fuck, I'm gonna be broke in a couple." So it was driven out of fear, and I remember thinking, I was like, I know I'm not above average intelligence, but I was like, I know I can work really hard towards things, and I was like, if I just go through the motions, it'll be difficult, but if I do score in the top one, that's how I looked at it. I was like, if I just score in the top 1% of every test in every class every semester for 3 more years, I'll get in a med school, and it will be difficult, but I'll always have a job, and I'll make a lot of money, and I won't be unemployed. So I looked at it that way. I don't think that's very different from looking at the military. You're like, it's not where my heart is. It's 3 square meals. Get in for 20 years. You got it. It's like medicine. You're like, it's something respectable. You did something with yourself. You served to a degree the community. So I don't think it's like that different from medicine at all. In that you look at it and you go, yeah, there's a lot of fucked things about it. But at the same time, you know, it's like, where is the military industrial complex? You're like, oh, the doctors are pulling off COVID scheme, and I'm like, I talked to a lot of them, and a lot of them are not pulling the string. So it's like the military industrial complex is fucked. Like, yeah, go down to your local enlistment office. Do you think they're talking about like knocking over Iraq? It's just some dude who also wants 3 square meals and retirement. So
Oh yeah, no, they
yeah,
get the salesman over there, and they give them bonuses on like
yeah. Why
lying to
wouldn't you?
people and getting them. You promise them whatever the heck you want. Just
Why
tell them to
wouldn't
sign up.
you?
Just sign the contract. Yeah, and they're like, cool, and they get their deal. I mean, they're and again, there's like good in both of these. Like, it's not fair to just say the
It's
entire
all
military
fucked.
is this
Yeah.
evil complex, even though in a lot of ways it is. And it's not fair to say that about all doctors, because there's a lot of amazing doctors and people who really do help people. That being said, I think the number one, the medical industry is completely screwed up
Mm-hmm.
in ways that most people aren't even aware of how deep it's just flawed and wrong and like ass backwards. Um, but both you help people. You have like, yes, you need defense and all these things. In a lot of ways, I would say actually the medical industry is part of the military industrial complex. Like way more involved with like the deep state, like the dark project, weird shit that they do with medicine. And you
Yeah.
look at COVID because everyone's like, oh well, they're biolabs, and they talk about the vaccine. Because we had like a brief conversation in between, like norovirus effects, like last week or something. But I mean, the body area networks and like all the medical body area networks that they're using that no one talks about, and like that's a lot of what I think COVID was about. It's not just like they turned everyone in and got them to inject themselves with a biocyber interface, and you don't really see that many people talking about it, but they'll talk about the weird vax effects.
Yeah, I don't think that was the
All that's
main priority.
like, no, that stuff's like all weird,
I'm gonna find the name of the book.
like military type stuff. I mean, this is like a national security directive too, for surveillance and X, Y, and Z and all kinds of cool things. And then they're probably gonna like bring us into the Borg and tell us that we're going to Mars, but we're gonna be like in a VR thing, like some of those shows where you're like fighting to escape the Matrix, but you're already there. It's not about like restarting civilization. They're just gonna send it to the cloud, like that loser, that little freakazoid, that gay lizard dude, Harari. He was like, oh well,
Yeah,
we're gonna send you. It's not the cloud that God talks about. We have our cloud. The little weird
little
Jewish dude.
fucking little demon. That little.
Oh man, dude. Yeah, I know.
No, I agree with
Okay,
you.
well here, hold on. Let me, because I'm gonna lose this thought because I'm like way too ADD.
No, I was gonna say there's a great book about all this. I just pulled up, First Platoon by Annie Jacobson. It's all about like the bio-cybernetic interface and holograms, and you're like, oh.
Wait, what is it? I gotta read this.
What is it called? I'll text you. First Platoon by Annie Jacobson. No, it's
First Platoon.
But on the same thought of what you're saying, not to, I don't want you. You're not gonna lose it because I'm talking about it. Is like they the power structure, the powers that be, the elite, whatever you want to call it, the Jews, whatever you want to call it, they're not stupid. They know how to make money. Like military industrial complex, it's not new. They did Vietnam, Korea, World War II. Like they know how to do this. And so when I looked at the amount of propaganda they're putting into COVID, everyone's like, it's a money grab. I'm like, it is, but this is not all it is, because they're very good at money grabs. They know how to do it. You blow something up on the homeland, you got to rebuild it. Then we got to go fucking slaughter 1 million people. That costs money. And then we got to rebuild all of it and buy all the new weapons. The COVID thing was so sloppy and inefficient and unprofitable that I was like, there's something else going on. And I don't think it was just depopulation either, although I do think there was a contingent of that. Because even if you really needed depopulate, you would just make something airborne. So they're demons from hell, but they absolutely could have depopulated much more efficiently, and they absolutely could have done a money grab. You don't even need a real thing. You just do 08, where it's just a bunch of numbers, and all of a sudden $1 trillion is gone. There's something else, and I truly believe it was something that required an injection, and it could get into the occult, the karma. You have to say, well, they did it on their own free will. But it wasn't just making a couple. They know how to do that. That's what Ukraine is. We know how to do that. This is something fucked. And after reading this book in 2021, I fully believe, I'm like, there's some fucking, bioelectric grid that our grandkids might see a fraction of when it's declassified in 80 years. And they go, oh, Grandpa really wasn't that crazy. They were trying to build some weird human cybernetic Borg to put everyone in so they could worship the one true god of darkness that animates all things, Moloch. Ah. But by then it won't matter. It'll be over. Anyway.
That was a nice dark little tangent there. That was good.
But no, I agree. In short, I agree with you. It wasn't just injected people.
No. And it's all connected anyways. I don't even think that, like, here's the thing. Like, I don't even think it's so simple as like, okay, well, you got the shot, so you're in, whatever. I'll just like really loosely and inefficiently say the Borg, but it's not that, I think they really only needed to hit like a critical percentage of people to get it, because if you look at like some of these, Internet of Things networks and all kinds of things, it's just about like distribution. I've heard Sabrina, she's cool, and she talks about it's really about load balancing and what they're doing with a lot of these these like initiatives. So I mean, I think the web is already there. The problem is that a lot of people don't understand that it's like in existence, and you see like some people who go out and they hyper focus, just like they did on elections and all kinds of things, on certain aspects of it, and they talk about bioweapon. But people aren't paying attention to like how they're actually, especially looking forward, you can be making money. And I mean, now we have like a new administration, but there's still a lot of concerns because now you have like all these people, which goes back to the election thing like a year or two ago when everyone was like, we got to do blockchain voting. Like, bro, there's another agenda to that too. And it all ties back into the same thing. But this is the thought I was going to lose. So I'm going to jump back for a second because you mentioned there's a lot of similarities between the medical industry and the military. And one, like both do really great work in some ways. Both of them are much more advanced than I think anyone realizes at a general level in the population. But then like you call it the induction into both of these groups too. There's a lot of similarities there. There's like, number one, you have the military. It's like, well, I want to serve my country, whatever, X, Y, and Z. So there's like inherent appeals to basic human values and like personal psychological needs. Uh, but then if you look at like when you go in there too, it's like total brainwashing. And I mean, you've seen some of this because you were on the med track, got out of med school. Um, I mean, you just talk about like the vaccines and some of the things that they preach, and like it's a kind of an open joke that they're just teaching them to be drug dealers essentially. But you get people in these schools, they start going to medical school and they're doing the rotations, and you're just like, it's complete brainwashing. They give you very little, none really, on like nutrition X, Y, and Z. But also, if you just look at the schedule and like how they actually do it, and this is like tied into how they've changed education, like from primary through once you go to universities now, like they have the bells and all kinds of weird things. Like John Taylor Gatto has written a lot about this. This was some of the first books that I started reading when I was a kid about this kind of stuff, and how it's just for programming. It's not for like you to learn. It's just you learn to follow the routine, and it's rote learning. It's not critical thinking X, Y, and Z. But like medical school, you go in there, you get them extreme amount of hours. They're constantly under stress. They have all the rotations. They're just learning on regurgitating information. Same thing, which is kind of a problem, especially if your like profession is going to be like problem solving so that you can save lives. It's fairly counterproductive if you look at it from that way alone. And then you have shit food. They give you like all this garbage in the cafeterias at the hospitals, and you look in there and you're like, this is supposed to be healthcare. And they have these people eating like cheese sticks and stuff. That's like what you would get when you were in third grade. Like there's no actual food. They're under artificial lights all the time. It's legitimately like a brainwashing type of program. There's no respect for their like natural body rhythm, anything like that. They don't learn that anyways. But the military is the same thing, and you can say there's good or bad to it. There's good or bad in both. Like you need to adapt to whatever environment you're going to be in. So I'm not going to say like it's inherently bad. They tell you straight up like, we're going to break you down. We're going to make you into what you need to be and what we need you to be, so that you can be whatever warrior. I mean, they tell you to your face what it is. But I mean, that's what you do. You go in there and you're like, you have no will of your own. You have no worth until you can perform as we ask you to and follow instructions and blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's behavioral modification. That's what they are. When you go like to boot camp, basic training, you go to medical school, you're going through behavioral modification programs. That is it. And they're extensions of like the base of our society. When we come in, it's very, I mean, to me, it's very, very clear what it is. And I'm not saying again, there's necessarily a problem with that, but I don't know why people like to pretend that it isn't. I mean,
yeah, no, it
like
is.
that's just how it is. They're very, very similar in that way.
No, it is in that it's like the people I knew got into med school, like the doctors I know, like they're honest, truly some of the most intelligent people I've ever met, and it is always, there's like a little silver lining or optimism when I have on some of the doctors, and they talk about things that are like far beyond the scope of medicine. And I go, okay, they've like retained who they are. They still have interests and stuff, but no, and that is what it is. It's like you're not there to study, the complex changing effect. They're like, you gotta fucking know how to memorize 80 trillion cell types. And like, on one part of me, I empathize with them. I go, yeah. On the other hand, but this is kind of what it all comes back to is it's up to you. Like when I was going into it, and as I started to slowly become disillusioned with it, and then you go through that thought process for a while, and then you go, well, how can it be changed? And then you go through that thought process for a while, and then you finally realize, like, this is such a big thing, and this is so much bigger than me, and on a timeline so much bigger than me, that it's not going to change before I go in, when I'm in, or even after I'm in. Then it comes on you, and you go, well, then maybe I shouldn't do this if I have this much of a problem with it. And that is a very scary leap, because that's on you. No one's there to, pat you on the back for. No one's there to tell you to find your own way. And even doing the podcast early on, I was like, wait, why am I getting banned for talking about this thing? And I was like, I think there's legitimate fuckery going along, and it's like eating at my conscience, because like I have, even at the time, I had like 500 subscribers, but I was like, I have a platform, and I have contact to these doctors. I was like, there's no like higher up, there's no chain of command to defer to and be like, sir, if I do this, can you show me the financial graphs of how it will hurt me, but maybe how it will help me? No, it's just you kind of standing in the shower by yourself, being like, wait, this is really fucked, dude. I think I have to like do the right thing. And it's difficult because there's no one there to do it for you. And at the end of the day, because even like back my attraction to medicine and what I imagine is attraction to the military is for different reasons, interests, you want to help people. But at its what I imagine to be, I don't want to speak for them. At its core, for what it was for me, was it had a lot of problems. It had a lot of pitfalls. But man, stability, job security, and I was like, it just seems kind of like a very not shitty outcome for all outcomes you could have on this earth. I was like, that's like the least worst thing. And, you know, and now I get to do this where we do get to talk about it and break it down. But that's another thing is I'm sure there's a lot of like brainwashed doctors. I really do. Who legitimately think there's nothing wrong. But then there's also a lot of doctors I've talked to who are like very aware of everything that we're talking. And that's almost scarier because you almost have this idea of like, I'm going to red pill them and then they're going to see the light. What's even more fucked is when you start talking to them and they're like, yeah, no, it's so brutal and corrupt. And you're like, oh, that was kind of my big hurrah was I was going to red pill. You're like, yeah, no, I know. And you're like, wait, why are you doing it? They're like, well, I'm still helping people and I'm paying off medical debt. And you're like, oh God. You know,
Yeah,
it's
no, you're right.
it's
No,
scary,
it's
man.
like you hit your face and you're like, dude, you're kidding me. Because
When a
you know
fucking
what?
hippie is screaming at
Here are
you
the
about the
worst
military industrial
people.
complex, that's okay. When a guy you've had on who done Delta Force or like a general and they're like, yeah, it's an interlocking mechanism of profit margins that they make money off the slaughter of humans and it needs to be stopped, and you're like, oh God. Oh God. Like
Like, I
you
said,
know
you
this. They're like,
know,
yeah, I
you
know
all
this. It can't be
know.
stopped. And you're like, oh fuck.
Well, I mean, you want some of the most frustrating conversations because that one's like an awareness like moment where you just go, oh, I see. So yeah, you all get it. Because especially like I think earlier, like in this journey, this journey that we all go on, that we call life. We have these times where we're like, oh, I really need them to understand. And like that can be a painful one, but it's like realization when you go, oh, no, you do get it. Okay, got it. It's the people who are in it. But you want the most frustrating ones. It's when you go to like some of these medical people or the people who are like family of a doctor and they just like know that they know what's going on and they legitimately are so brainwashed. And it's like nurses, doctors, I've talked to some of them too. Like you can't bring up these things. It's like there is no compute there. Like they have been brainwashed so well that it doesn't matter what you say. You show them numbers and like even what you would think their brain would work like. Like, oh look, there's data and you can see like there's a trend here, and like, oh, clearly like temporally with introduction of this intervention like the shots or X and Y and Z, and then you look at all these issues that started happening, and like there's like no, it's not that, and you can tell it's those people who just got that line, and it's just stuck on loop in their
Yeah.
head, like vaccines do not cause autism. This is safe and effective. Blah 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 blah, and it's super frustrating because you look at them and you're just like, I can just pray for you. I don't know if you're an NPC or not, but like, I guess good luck to you, and it's just a lost cause, and you just have to at some point accept like, yeah, I'm not reaching these people. They're gonna have to figure that out on their own or whatever.
By the way, I'm not playing with my computer. I pulled up another window to block my face. There's like a delay and it was fucking me up. And also, by the way, I pushed
Oh
my next
yeah.
show back so we can keep talking if you want. But I was gonna say about hitting people, but that's again where it comes into you start having to ask yourself what are your true intentions and goals. And so again,
Mm-hmm.
like the red pilling or something. Like let's say you talk to like a Dr. Malone and he's on the show and he's talking about and you go, oh, you already know all of this stuff. And he's like, well, I've already got this education. I've spent my life in it. I'm going to keep helping people. I have to pay off these debts. And like, what am I going to do? Just leave the profession? Like, people still need doctors. And you're like, oh, you've already gone through this whole thought process. And then it's like you playing a game with a friend or something. And you're like, hey, I need your help on this level. And they're like, yeah, no, I took this approach and that approach. You're like, okay, I did that too. And I added this. And they're like, yeah, I added that. Did you run into this problem? I'm like, yeah, the thing with, they're like, yeah, it's a dead end. And then you go, oh shit. And then with the, I'm gonna red pill this person, I'm gonna enlighten them. You then have to start asking yourself very honestly, you're like, how much of it, and it's not an either or, sometimes it can be both. How much of it was I wanted to enlighten them? How much of it do I like the idea of like my ego is like, yeah, you're a hell, and you're like, oh shit, I'm also a slimy piece of shit. And then you talk to people who, it's not that they reject it and go, fuck you, I'm getting paid. Like you said, blank stare. They've just, the cogs are locked in a place and you can't reach them. Then there's nothing to do there either. You go, oh, they can't be reached. There's no point in wasting time. So it all starts to come down to is like the people that can be red pilled are red pilled. The people that can't won't be. And then you're just stuck there. And you go, oh, I guess I have to just start working towards this thing. And it makes me think of Terence McKenna, the ethnobotanist, psychedelic philosopher guy. And he goes, he's like, after all of my, million acid trips and DMT trips, and he died in his 40s, he was like, I would say the one like concluding thesis I have about life is the real difficulty is not finding the answer, it's facing the answer. And that's what I'm learning more and more is, you start talking to someone about, the sketchiness around 9/11 or Vietnam, and they go, you already know all that. And then you go, oh, wait, what was plan B? Like, okay, how do we go about fixing this?
Well, that's actually a good point. Yeah, no. So
you go,
here's the
all right. Let's do a podcast.
So there's
maybe
two
tell
levels
people.
of that.
But I mean, you're like, oh, and it's like, do you have what? You're gonna go legally? This is a joke. What? Are you gonna grab a gun and overthrow the government because they're corrupt? You're not gonna do that. You don't have to. So like, what are you doing? And you go, oh, I'm in the podcast industrial complex. It's like, how much money do they need for cancer awareness? Like, we're all aware.
Bro, there's totally a podcast cancer. Or what did you just say?
Podcast industrial complex.
Yeah. No, and you know,
like
that's
it. They don't let
been
me in.
So evident. They're like, dude, this guy swears too much. He talked about Norovirus. No, but I mean, so first of all, totally a podcast industrial complex, or like, it's loosely, they'll be like, oh, it's Con Inc. and this, and that, and the other thing. But, like a lot of these medical people who are on like whistleblowing, and they're like the spokespeople for the vaccine injured and like all these weird things. And you see it in like the survivors of SRA too. There's like a few people that go out and they're like, they focus all the stuff. I had one, I commented on it on X. I can't remember the account name, but it was Jordan Peterson was like interviewing someone about some of these things, and I used to really like Peterson. He always had a bit of like that like dark academia, like sort of spookish vibe. But it's totally different now.
Yeah, no, he had some. I'll agree with you.
Whatever you think about Jordan, wait.
I was gonna say no. He had some good. He does have some like good like lessons. Like that's okay to say.
Yeah, oh no, he totally does. He has some great content. And like really, really eloquent in the way that he describes some complex things. Lately, like the last few years, I don't understand what happened to him. The dude talks like he got like doubled, and now he's a construct. Like I look at him now and I'm like, who Agent Smith you, bro? Because the way that he talks is so weird and artificial on a show. It's just very strange. From like the energy that he had when he was doing his lectures online. But he responded to this chick was talking about like SRA, and they used to have these things, and there were these kids that had no idea like what any of these concepts were. And he did this like really masterful redirection and was just like, oh yeah, that was like the satanic panic, and he totally marginalized it like right then. And then he goes, yeah, interrupts her, goes, that was a real problem. And did you ever read this book on that topic? And she's like, no, I haven't. And then he goes, well, this is the best book on that topic. And so he like totally just established authority, just slipped it in, and then said, well, I've read this book and it's the best on the topic. And goes, and then he flips it around right after that. Yeah, so totally he turns the argument around, or the conversation, deflects from what she was saying, because she was saying like, well, I think about to add some more things about how it wasn't just like the satanic panic, which I think was a cover. And I don't think that's very well understood anyways. And then she goes, or he says, well, do you think that there was any possibility that maybe you just liked the attention, basically? when you were talking about some of these things, and it was just your ego. And I was like, wow, very well played. That was some good shit right there.
Yeah, but what a no, very well played. What an evil fucking.
But see
demon.
it was well played. If you see it, it was really well played. But it was like that's like very classic, like podcast or whatever, like media industrial complex is how they pigeonhole those things, and they use some of those people in every group to maintain like the Overton window, if you want to call it, on like each one of those things. And it's always on the fringes that you have the issues like the biodigital convergence type stuff and all the weird stuff that no one wants to talk about as it pertains to COVID. But another point to this, which I think I just forgot because my brain just died.
I was gonna say it's
inside 3 times.
No, I was gonna say it's funny, and we're sitting here and we're like, do the right thing, as we preface this to like how horrible and unsuccessful it is to go up against the machine. It's like, wait.
Oh no! So you know what? Here's actually. So you just reminded me. So there's the other thing. You were just talking about like you have this ego moment, and you said specifically, like it's about facing the truth, right?
Not
about
finding
like
the answer,
facing it versus being able to see. Yeah, finding the answer versus facing it, and that's super on point. And I think there's like 3 levels to that, especially as you said, like, oh well, what are we doing? And so you have this, like, there are kind of 2 groups of people, and it's like, just to generalize, the ones who are like really, they're lost, like they don't get it. Like they're the people who just like you talk to them and you might as well be speaking Swahili. They don't get it. And then there are the people who like they understand conceptually, but like they can't just make that leap because they realize that it's going to crumble their entire
everything
worldview.
Else they know is faulty at best.
Yeah, and that's a big one because most people, like, just realistically, most people's ego cannot really handle that.
Well, that's
like,
the idea of dropping
one.
out of med school. You go, there are problems, and that's step 1. And then you go, well, what am I going to do? I'm $300,000 in debt. I've spent my life learning that, but I'm not going to go get a job as a doctor. Yeah, no, it's a big step, man.
Yeah,
it's a lot to ask of people.
Well, and there's like 3 levels to like that ego piece of it too, because first you go, okay, can I face that, like, that answer? And once you number one, you have the choice to do that. Like, can you face that answer? And then you have a next step to that, which is like, okay, so I can face that answer, and you can apply this to anything, like 9/11, like the truthers, the vax community, some of the medical stuff, military industrial complex. Some of these apply like real specifically to people who are in the military or people who are in the medical profession, people who didn't speak out during COVID about what they were doing with ventilators, people who don't speak out about the fact that they have the body area networks now and they're using it in hospitals because it's used for all their telemetry and like all kinds of predictive analytics and all kinds of shit. Like it's ubiquitous. But then you have like the next face it moment, which is, okay, then there's the domino effect to like the rest of everything. And some people are, smart enough that they'll like see some of those things instantly. But like as I see it, it's very rare, if it happens ever, that you can like change some major assumption or belief and accept it in how you perceive like your paradigm of the world in existence and yourself within it without it changing all of it. It's not like, oh, I have to change out this tile. What happens is really in almost every case, when you have to do that, and whether it's the medical system, any of the things that we've talked about, it's not like, oh, I changed that and now I accept my new worldview. You have to change that, and then you basically have to break down. It's like breathing, it's like same thing. It's like wire physiology. This is my like woo-woo view of everything. Everything's very similar to breathing, just like thought and just, like all kinds of things and political movements and, growth and death of, culture, whatever. It's the same thing where like you have this pivotal change, and then what happens is as that idea hits you, you have to go and like reimagine, like your entire paradigm of everything breaks down in order to accommodate. And then if you allow it to, it has to change everything that's connected to it, whether minusculely or in a big way. And then you have that to face. And that's like where I think a lot of people are stuck. And then you get to the what am I doing part, which is like, okay, well, I'm doing something. So then you have, okay, well, I need to be talking about it. And then, oh, well, is that effective? What else can I be doing? And I think there's a big ego thing there where people go, well, I'm talking about it, and they hold this onto this idea that like because I'm talking about it and I can say that like I was wrong about this 10 years ago, that I'm doing everything that I can. And this applies to everybody, like
Yeah.
me too, like in big ways. And then you have to say, okay, well, what else could I be doing right now? Is it in my wheelhouse? Does it matter that I haven't done it before? And then there's all those like uncomfortable moments where you say, well, I could be doing all those things if you really think about it. And then do I just not make the time? Am I making excuses because like, oh, well, someone else is doing it? And then there's a level there too where your ego has to go, what am I really here for? And then you like you mentioned too, like doing a show and all these things, then you have this like balance moment where you have to go, okay, do I devote myself entirely to that and like summarily become a martyr in my own mind, or do I have to figure out a way to like be human and like enjoy my own life or whatever? Like, am I failing humanity because I was like, screw it, I'm gonna go play Call of Duty for like 30 minutes? Like, are those 30 minutes? Am I gonna weigh on my? These are the arguments that I have with myself all the time. Just so everyone knows.
No,
Like,
no, it's
you know what I mean?
fucking eerie how much you have perfectly summarized like the last 10 years of my own like mental thought process, like to a T. That's everything that's happened. I gotta piss. Apollo, tell everyone. Well, you don't have a podcast, so I don't know. Plug your social media or something. I gotta go piss.
Okay, yeah, I'll plug something. So, by the way, we're super excited to have Tommy on Untamed. In case you all were wondering, so you'll find him on Untamed Nation. He's gonna be up on the site very shortly. But I'll actually kind of pump Tommy in a minute, or for a minute, because one of the reasons I actually like Tommy, he's like kind of unpolished, but I actually dig with it. Like I produce a lot of shows, and in a lot of ways, it's like my purview to say, okay, this looks like crap. That's not clean, and make sure everything is really efficient. And in a lot of ways, I hate that because like that's like what I have to make sure is there, and always think about how we can improve that because production does matter, and like appearances do matter. It's like impressions matter, and I mean professional uh you know production and whatever, they're it's very, very important. But there's also like an authenticity part of it that gets robbed, so that's kind of what we want to do on Untamed, is find that balance. Like, we want to be authentic, and then we also want to deliver some high quality stuff. So it's something that really, really liked about Tommy, is that he doesn't care how you like perceive him, and the conversations are super authentic. I was actually just pumping you for a sec.
Thank you. No, I heard that. I was very
Because
happy.
this is what I know. This is what I love most about your show, is that it's super just you're just you. Like when we were talking, as you described earlier about painting the walls with the like bio effects of
Just pure
very
dogs.
small things that
Just pure
yeah, I mean
lava
like
dog shit
like
coming
as I
out of
was
you.
telling you, yeah, like when I was super sick, or like when I got poisoned back with Joe, and I was just like, I'd ingest a banana and I would regurgitate like, like a gorilla sized uh a, amount of fluid.
No, no,
And like I don't know how I wasn't like
like a
puking blood at moment. Yeah, it was great.
no,
No, yeah, yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
defies the conservation of
Wait, did I
matter.
send you that Norovirus clip?
The,
Did
you
I
sent
did I
me a
send you that
meme.
Norovirus clip? I kind of want to play that.
You sent a meme. You can play. I was gonna say.
I don't even know where that is. Maybe I'll find it.
No, you can. I don't give a shit.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
I
Go ahead.
just I really do like everything you just said, because that's exactly what happens. And it's like, as like the idea of medicine starts to kind of, like, for me, I'm like going back to just like when I say I studied all the time, I mean like you can see with the podcast how much I dedicate to it. It was just that with studying, but there was no camera, so there's no proof of it. But that's just all I did around the clock, 24/7, 7 days a week. And you start to, for me, it wasn't that like I think there was a problem with medicine. It was, I started to realize like I didn't love it, and then that was like a whole process of just continually just kind of facing it through meditation, or I'd like smoke just a little bit of pot by myself just to like think about it. And I remember it was more of like an inverse thing. It wasn't that I thought there was anything wrong with medicine at the time. It's that I knew I wasn't happy. And it was my last semester of college, and I finally started to just enjoy it a little bit, and like just going out maybe once a week with friends. And the amount of just like laughter, or not even just like, yeah, we're getting drunk, but regardless of that, just like the amount of like laughter and like face to face interactions with people that you couldn't quantify. I realized I wasn't happy, and I had just started seeing who would eventually become my first like major girlfriend for a couple years. But I remember one night after the bars, I was super drunk and super high, and I saw a Maya Angelou quote, and it was, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story." And I just remember thinking, I'm 23. Am I going to go down a life of misery? Do I want to look back at this in 60 years and go, what if you weren't a doctor? What if you had just done something else? And I was like, so I have to do that. Right after that, this is a weird way to say it, luckily, I'd lost an older brother to suicide, because that just completely, it was a nuke to any barrier I had. It was just like, now I had no problem changing the tile. I was like, everything's fucked, so whatever. But that actually led to me. So it was the deciding not to go to med school, followed by losing a brother. And that kind of, and I can only see in hindsight what you're talking about. There was no conscious thought of this is going to change everything. It was like I just started pulling on a thread, and it started with medicine, and then it went to a brother, and then it went to like, well, I'm not happy at all. Everything's fucked. And then it went even farther, and it was like, well, now I want to kill myself. And then I thought, well, if I want to kill myself and I decide not to, that means I won't have any fear about doing something. There's still going to be problems doing it. It's going to be difficult, but I won't have any fear. Like, well, if I accept this, my whole worldview changes, and then if the whole worldview changes, that might also change your employment, and that might change your financials. And for me, it was, and I eventually lost the girlfriend, lost all of my friends, lost that entire social order, because they're doing the Matrix thing, which is fine, free will, you're allowed to do that. But I just kind of kept going. So by the time I started the podcast, it was like when the SR-71 spy plane, SR-71 Blackbird spy plane retired in the 90s. They wanted to do as fast as they wanted to get a final flight and see if it could break its record of going from Los Angeles to New York. And what it did was, instead of just taking off from Los Angeles and flying to New York, it actually took off from Los Angeles, flew out about 100 miles over the ocean, turned around, and then went full throttle. So by the time it was crossing LAX, it was already going Mach 3. So in a weird way, they were kind of like cheating, but I guess it's its own records or whatever. So it didn't take off. It didn't start at a starting line. It was going Mach 3 past the starting line. And it went all the way to New York, I think in like 45 minutes. Crazy shit. By the time I started the podcast, there wasn't this like awakening of questioning things. I was 30 years old, living above my parents' garage, had lost every friend, lost my girlfriend, hated everything and everyone, was broke, fat, and on benzos. By the time I started the podcast, I was already coming in at orbital velocity. So when it was like, you can't talk about vaccines, it was like, I didn't appeal it. It was like, I'll fucking kill you and then kill me. Like, I don't give a shit. It was like, who is this? And, but what it does do is, if you go down that path, you can't just change a brick in the foundation. You gotta move everyone out of the building. You gotta strip out all the valuable wire and tubing. You gotta control demolition in the building. You gotta go in. You gotta excavate. You gotta get all the permits. Then you gotta go change the foundation. And then you gotta bring everything back in. And then you gotta put the girders and build it. All the while, some people kind of want you dead. And you build this whole thing. And then, in addition, you might have already seen that entire process happen. And you go, I watched that guy take that building down and build a new one, and that hollowed him out as a human. His wife left him. I don't know if I want to do that, but if you can go through and go back down to the very core and turn the tile, and you can somehow make it out alive, and like you said, then you have to decide, is this a thing I do in my off time? Do I have to make myself this my own self narrative of I'm a martyr? Do I have to do this all around the clock? Am I doing everything I can do? Is one episode a day enough? Am I failing humanity? Am I doing enough? If you can make it through all that and survive, and survival is not guaranteed, and I don't mean like your podcast might not survive. I mean, like, no, you might fucking die because you're just so full of hate you drink yourself to death and shoot yourself. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do that, you will, like Charles Bukowski said, if you go the distance, you will be alone with the gods. And I don't mean like you are in godhood. I mean with yourself, to go, I fucking did that. It's personal challenges that no one will ever understand. They're only of value to me. I can't show you my apartment in Athens, Georgia, and how I studied. It won't mean anything to you, but to me, it's flooding back with memories. If you can go through that, you will come out. I would say there's still problems, but there's a peace. Like when I lay down at night, now I'm worried, is the show gonna make enough money? Am I gonna get more subscribers? There's like a piece to where I go, all the questions you ask yourself, did I do the right thing? Did I do enough of the right thing? And then there's also the part of like, okay, I'm doing the right thing, but it is also okay to play Call of Duty. Like it's also okay. You have to go through that whole process of like, you can't just be a martyr forever. Like it's okay to jerk off. Like relax. If you can do all that, there is a piece that's where I go. I know that right now, aneurysm, I drop dead. Apollo's sitting here going, oh shit, and I have to go stand face to face with God, and He can see through everything. And I go, I fucked up a lot, but when I decided I wanted to do the right thing, I know I did everything I could, and you know that too. And if you can do that, that is the ultimate tile. There is no deeper down tile. If you go, I'm good with who I am and what I've done, the rest of the universe starts to click, 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 and it just changes. And that's what I like hope is going on with the podcast, where I'm like, maybe there's just like a delayed reaction and the tiles are still clicking, and eventually, the podcast will get what I feel is it's like due. But it's everything you said. I mean, I think the way I'm actually kind of jealous and maybe need to kill you because you're now competition. That was the most succinct.
I can send you my address, bro. I mean, like,
I'll fucking kill you and I'll kill myself too. So
I've
now I
been
don't even want to.
asking
Now
for
I
a
don't even
while.
want to. See, you're supposed to play hard to get and be like, no, I value my life. But like, no, what you said was the most succinct thing I think I've been trying to verbalize. I mean, you might have hit that on the head better than like any guest I've had. Like, I mean that sincerely. I've done 1,700 episodes. You nailed that. That's impressive.
Well, I hope it was valuable to the listeners. I mean, if like I like listen to shows here and there, but like, do you have like a what's your like ethos? Like, what is the if you could say this is like okay, cool, like norovirus strikes times 10 right now, you like squirt out every fluid in your body over the next 12 seconds, you
Yeah.
go and meet God.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, by the way, what did you want to do with your show? Like, what would you say?
There's personal. I wanted to make money, and I would like to be able to support a wife and family and also not hate my job, which is most people get one. I want both. I'm very selfish in that. I want to make as much money as possible. I would like to open a medical school and name it after my brother and focus it purely on not like SSRIs to help people with mental health, but legitimately like people almost like when people have like really bad cancer and you go in, they go, you can try this experimental thing. What does it matter? If you fail, you're going to die anyway. I want there to be like an experimental hospital for people that are just suicidal. And they're like, whenever you let me out of here, like I am going to hang myself. That's what a legacy podcast. I don't want to do like the mental health awareness because we're already aware. That's a dead end. I would like to open a physical medical school and name it after my brother. And I would like that for people that are just like at the end and they're like, I'm gonna kill myself, but like I'll give this thing a try. And maybe if they give something a try, that will discover something new. That's the impact I want to leave on society. I don't care if my name's linked to it. I don't even have to be my last name. That's not a Tommy thing. Me personally, I want something that's like not on the podcast. I want a personal, subjective experience. I want a wife. I want kids. I'd like grandkids. I'd like to do the whole thing and be a dad and soccer practice and Christmas and all that. I'd like to go on the human ride, and then less. So the main one's the family. The second one's I'd like to open a medical school named after my brother. That implies that I'd have to make a ton of money off the podcast, and so the third one is a little more ego and a little less important to me. I'd like the show to be like the biggest in the world. I would like to get what I feel is like respect of peers, and the peers in podcasting are all degenerate faggots. So I don't know why I want the respect, but I would like to have a show with like 1 million subscribers, and I would like to look at it and be like, that's a respectable thing that I put together. But that's more ego. That's more like, do I want that? Do I want people to look at me and go, that's Tom? So I'm a little less wary, or I'm a little more wary of like holding on to that one, because I'm like, that one might be like illusory ego,
Okay, so
narcissism.
how about like the audience, like in general? Like what, like if let's say, I mean, God is God.
The
Because I
funny
think
thing
about this
is like
sometimes,
the
like when I'm
audience.
on the
I
show.
don't think about the audience at all. I go, if you like this is yours, and get something from it. I don't. At best, I'd like
It's
for
not,
you
I
to.
mean,
I like for
honestly,
you to.
all
I
that
like for
sounds
people to maybe think different. To go, oh, that's a cool way of looking at it. I don't. I don't care what the audience gets out of it. You get whatever you get out of it.
I think that honestly, like, obviously there's a lot of like overlap with most people. I think to some degree, but I mean, I think if I were to sum that up, I would just say that you want to make a living and be able to like provide for yourself and your loved ones by being completely authentic.
Yeah.
Is how I would summarize that.
My uncle was a doctor, and he told me if you're smart enough to get into medical school, you're smart enough to make the same amount of money or more doing something you like. And when I decided I don't want, this is before my brother died, and I went, but I don't even know what I want to do. I don't want to go to medical school anymore, but there wasn't like, I want to make custom slippers. Well, I'm just going to be the best slipper maker ever. I remember I told myself, I don't know what I want to do, and I want to be free to not know. So that's how I look at it. It's like I want all this shit that like money really can't buy, just like a loving home and a family. But I really, and this is maybe the have my cake and eat it too. I don't want to have a boss. I I really don't. I want to be able to be me, and that might be too much to ask. Maybe you can only have one, but I want to be like, yeah, no, fuck that, be who I am. Because I also think that would be the best role model for kids, to be like, doing the right thing isn't just something you say on a soapbox. You can actually turn it into revenue that pays for electricity and groceries. I think that's like a good lesson. Like, no, you can do the right thing and God will provide. So maybe that's what it is be a good role model. I don't know.
Well, I think I mean, this is like actually a great line of thought, especially after we were just coming from the beginning. Like everyone is a role model to some degree, and I think everyone like subconsciously understands that at some kind of fundamental level. Because you have like even like manipulative people, they know this very well. You son of a they know this because sorry, I just had to use the force on my
I
camera.
just saw you.
Um
That was terrifying.
yeah, don't
What if you just did?
I
What
mean,
if you
listen.
just? What if you just like moved my like cup a little bit out of the way? You're like, let me just move. That would fucking. I would go pale as a ghost. If you like pulled up my blanket a little bit and just wrapped it around me, I'd be like, oh man. Apollo's like, this is my matrix. It's good to finally meet you, child.
Welcome to the show,
I'd jump out of
bitches.
the fucking window. I would kill myself now.
No, don't
If you
do
just
that.
like
Don't
parted
do
my
that.
hair a little bit and you're like, there you
No, your glass is a little crooked. Let me get that for you.
go.
No, like very manipulative people, which we see, especially like on a societal level, like with the podcast, the media industrial complex,
Yeah.
all these things. They know this very well because everyone's impressionable to some degree. Even in like the ways that people think they're not impressionable, the ways that they have an opposition to. In some ways, that could be like the most effective way to impress something upon someone or get them to behave a certain way
Donald Trump.
is to get them to be defiant to like some idea.
Donald Trump.
You know
People
what I
on the
mean?
left don't have independent thought. I know I'm generalizing. They're just the opposite of Trump. So now Trump just has to do the opposite of what he wants, and they will support it.
Well, I mean, example. But I mean, think about like at a societal level. I
Yeah.
mean, you have, especially you think like, okay, they've got like the digital twins of everybody, and they, I mean, they have like their profiles and all kinds of stuff on how you might react to a certain thing, and I think they use that regularly to get certain people to respond to a certain thing, and you can see that in like the Con Inc. type circles too, where it's like we will not bow down to the machines, blah blah blah, and they get them real hyped up about something, and then they get them spun off on some other bullshit.
What's Con Inc?
So they'll use it because they know they'll like Conservative Inc. Like the people who are like, don't worry about the machine. This is like what Joe has the big battle with, and why he keeps getting shadow banned everywhere.
That's why.
Because there are certain people.
That's why I know Joe's real. Because Joe's like, fuck all those faggots.
Yeah.
I'm like,
actually, I think he literally said those words yesterday.
Yeah, I think he says those hourly.
Something...
I think that's his mantra. I think Joe is like, I think Joe meditates in a sauna just saying, fuck all these faggots. Sorry, but keep going, keep going. Society impression.
I'm gonna have to. I'll ask him about that. Like, hey, dude, can you send me your mantra list for this morning? I'm just curious.
Faggotry.
But you know, everybody has that in them, and I think everybody wants to be a role model in some way. The difference is just, do I want to be a role model to like cause young men to be X, or do I want to be a role model to like get people to give me their money, or do I want to be like the creepy Noah Harari, like, you know, Black Ops type people who like, I want to get people to buy into this movement so we can track them and we can connect their networks.
You're like, all right,
I mean, it was like groomers. They're inherently attempting to be influential. Like, you know, people who go and try to seek out, you know, like victims on social media. And then you have, you know, people who want to influence what? Like, are you trying to influence people to be creative and like individual? I mean, that's kind of like the vacuum that we've had. And especially when you talk about like, you know, like you mentioned that thing, well, what the podcasters do. It's like, well, you bring authenticity, but then you don't speak the narrative. And that's where they've done that like Indiana Jones meme. Like they've bait and switched, and they've taken media and creativity and independent thought, and they've switched it with really like well produced or like good looking cameras type stuff, and a bunch of like, you know, e-girls who then go and talk about politics or whatever. And they supplant the CIA like controlled people, and they say, look, and they throw a bunch of money behind them, and they get them connected, and they get all the publicity, and they did it with J6, and they do it with all these things. And then so you think they're like, oh, what am I not doing that's like these people? And there's things that you can learn from those people, including those shitbags, because there's a reason that they're good at it. But then you also have to, like you said, you realize, well, I don't think I want to be like them like entirely, because across the board, they're fake.
Yeah.
And so there's like, it can be really hard to like separate what are the things that actually make something appealable so that people want to engage and digest with it, or at least consider like these alternative points of view so that they can challenge their own assumptions and grow as an individual and hopefully contribute to society, or at least just have a fulfilled existence in some level. And then the part where it's just completely artificial and you're just appealing to that, like, you know, men like boobs, men like explosions, you know, come watch our content and learn how to be a cuck under the guise of like being a red-blooded guy. Yeah. I mean, because that's kind of like where
exactly what all that shit is.
Yeah.
Eat steak. Look at you. You're a man. No, that's retarded. No, I should clarify. I don't want to be a role model. I think anyone that wants to be a role model, that's fucked. I'd like to be someone that, if was one, you would say, yeah, that's good for a dad. Like, my dad's a very good role model. He's not perfect. He's as close to perfect as you can get. He didn't grow up and be like, I'm gonna be a role model. I think he goes, I have 4 sons. I need to be one. So I don't mean to be like, I want to be a role model. No. I mean, I want someone that, even growing up, even in college, just simple, even just shit like going to the fucking gas station shit face with my friends, and somebody would like pocket a Red Bull. Even just little stuff like that, where I would just be like, no, I know what's right and wrong, and that's because my dad. That's what I mean. Is like, I would like to be for a family. That's not something where I'm role model Tommy. No, I don't want to be that. I think anyone that wants to be that is an imposter. At best, an imposter. At worst, a legitimate satanic pedophile. And then what you said is the whole replacement thing. That's also what it is. It's like when we see Operation Mockingbird, we see the consolidation of media over the decades. The CIA didn't just go, fuck. Looks like they checkmated us, guys. No, they probably had a Sputnik moment 10, 15 years ago and went, man, no one's watching CNN anymore. This new Facebook thing's rising. In 2011, they're like, who the fuck is Joe Rogan? And they went, all right, pivot. How do we adapt? Well, we can probably start infiltrating these. We can probably start infiltrating the companies that host them, like a Twitter or a YouTube, promoting different ones. And then as we kind of fine-hone this, start putting in people now. In 5 years, they will ripen and we'll have assets in the field. And then you could start doing things where you essentially send out talking points. And it doesn't look like talking points on the news where everyone says the same thing. But when all of a sudden all the big podcasters are all interviewing the same dude in a week, you go, that's a talking point. But then I go, yeah. The intelligence agency did that. And of course they would. That's their job. They're evil, but I'm not surprised by it. Of course they're going to roll out e-girls who are also talking about, the value of taking, iron ore from Ukraine. I'm like, yeah, it's the new marching orders. And when that falls apart, and one day it will, we'll have some new thing, probably some weird VR Neuralink shit, and you're going to be like, man, this new generation, whatever, Alpha Z, they don't follow the rule, and they're going to pivot, and they're going to, all right, most people spend their time in the Matrix. How do we get in there, and how do we, whatever. So that all makes sense to me, but it will never end. It will go forever. These are just cycles of things happen. Like you said, breathing. It's like the universe. The seasons are breath. Whales breathe. The oceans, the tide. It's all breathing. This is breathing, and they'll take over podcasts, and then it will break apart in 20, 30 years, and a new thing will arise, and then they'll be caught on their bat foot, and then they'll infiltrate those, and it'll go on forever. And so it's not about like, how do we stop the waves? You go, how do I fucking learn to keep this raft upright and maybe even surf the waves a little bit? And you go, it's not easy to go this way, but if you go, I don't want to be like everyone else. If you go, well, number one, I have like a moral thing. I go, I cannot be okay with this vaccine. You're giving kids heart problems. That's pure evil. Okay. I also want to have fun. I want to enjoy it. I want to be able to have conversations like this. And I also don't want to be like every other fucking faggot. I don't want to be Lex Friedman. I don't want to be every e-girl. I don't want to be every one of those cocks, because it's also just not cool. You go, I want to be me. And so if you look at all those things, you can kind of tie it together and like cobble like a shitty raft made out of tires and 2 liters. And you go, this is kind of all right. It's never going to be like a premium Navy SEAL dinghy that's stealth and has bulletproof. But you go, this thing's kind of floating. All right. And we didn't sell our soul. This is kind of cool. And so that is very difficult. And I think as a meta theme, it would be a role model-ish thing to go. It's not that you either do the right thing and then you get punished by the universe, or that you do the wrong thing and you get financial benefits. You could go, maybe you try to do the right thing and not be crushed. Like that alone might be an impetus for someone else to do the right thing. Like I'm sure Rogan's co-opted in ways. He's still like a cool dude who talked out against the vaccine and censorship, and also still did episodes with his buddies laughing. And he's a dad. That is proof that like, no, Joe, like you can do the right thing. You will be punished by the demons, but it's not total demoralization where it's like one guy did the right thing and then he and his family were killed, right? That does happen.
Which happens all the time.
That happens all the time. Hastings, I mean, they've tried to do it to Snowden. It does. But that doesn't happen across the board. And I think that is a good thing, because you go, oh, well, maybe I don't need to stay in line. Maybe I can say I think it's bad that we're not helping the Hurricane Helene victims just because they're Republican. I have this liberal chick friend who I've known since college who's like the most liberal person. I mean, legitimately pit hair, lesbian, cat mom, neon blue hair. And I remember she came out on like her TikTok and she's like, I don't care how many emails you guys send me, how many messages you send me. It's wrong that we're not providing relief to the hurricane victims in Helene. She's like, I don't care if it's a bunch of white guys with MAGA hats. She's like, those are humans. And I'm like, that's legit. That's someone who said they're going to do the right thing. And I think that is very important. I don't know what the point.
Well,
of
yeah,
that
that's
was.
kind of that's kind of the point. I mean, if we really get down to like the basis of everything, all of these, like, you call them ops, you call them whatever, it's really just an attack and division of humanity, because either they're pitting like one group of humans or maybe not so humans against another
Demons
group,
from hell, pedophiles,
or they're
pedophiles.
getting you to like divest from your own humanity.
Yeah.
And so you stop seeing yourself as like having the inherent value of, you know, of a living, you know, individual that's worthy of like X, Y, and Z basic things. And therefore you put up with, cool, they're going to take my money, take my land, do all these things. I don't get a voice. I'll get deplatformed, whatever. And you kind of have to come to this place where it's like, okay, well, I can not say what I want, and then maybe I'll be okay. Or I can just say what I want and see like what are they gonna do? Are they gonna take away my birthday? Like, are they gonna off me, shut off my bank account, kick me out of my house, throw me in a psych ward, whatever. And then you kind of have to go, okay, well, if I don't do that, I might not risk those things, but then do I want to live in that world? Like, what's
Bingo.
if you make it the extreme thing, I say what I want, what I really believe, and then maybe I'll face severe consequences, including death. Or I cannot, and then is that an existence I want to have? Would I prefer to live as that degree of slavery versus just being killed for saying what I believe the truth is? And I think like if you come to that point, that's up to you. But if you believe that, yeah, I'm willing to be a slave so that
they
don't take my birthday, then okay.
Go through the door, man.
I mean, you want to do that? Guess what? Nothing will change. That's all that's going to happen. Is that nothing at all will change for you, except maybe it'll get a lot worse because as they advance, something. When you do have to come to that realization, then you'll have to answer for that. I mean, I think that's like really the crux of it.
No, it is. It's are you willing to die for it? And if you're not, and then would you like to live in the world where you don't? And that is, and it sounds like extreme, but no, that is how you have to dial it up. Is you absolutely have to. It's like the Pentagon wargaming shit. Look at anything in the Cold War, and it's not like, well, if Turkey sends 3 soldiers with a gun into this city, are we willing to send 3? No, they go back and forth and go, we'll do this and we'll send a tank. And if they send a tank, we'll send fighter jets. And if they send an aircraft carrier, they walk everything up to just global thermonuclear war. I mean, like everything. Like, hey, that guy punched our diplomat. Like, are we willing to nuke Beijing? And America was always like, yeah. and so when you're like ready to roll, that you live with like a clarity. And then you just make peace with it. And that's one thing I've always thought. I'm like, well, if I do these episodes, if I, and I've had people like Dr. Malone or Dr. McCult, like in like the thick of COVID, they were like, hey, you need to like think about like how we're moving forward. They're like, I've already decided that I'm going to do this, but like, you don't have to, but you should think about it. And this is what could happen. And eventually I did kind of come to those thoughts where I was like, they might kill me. I'm like, I hope they don't torture me, because that would suck, and I'll definitely cry out. But I am ready to know if I gotta go, I gotta go. And no, I would rather not live in an existence where I didn't do anything. My conscience would eat me alive. And not only that, and this is what one of the special forces guys told me, they go, and you also, once you go through that thought process, they go, you also have to understand that not all sacrifice is transactional. So they might kill you and nothing will even happen. It might be for naught. And you have to ask yourself, am I okay with that? Yeah. No, because fuck these people. And I couldn't, if I just didn't do that, if I censored myself, every show I ever did going forward, if I like didn't do all those COVID episodes, I would never be able to do a podcast, because even now you and I would be talking, and in my head there would just be like, you're a fucking coward. It would just be bouncing around in my head. And I'd be like, dude, I can't do podcasting because I'm a fraud. And that's what and so some people might be like, dude, that's kind of, it's like, should I get into podcasting? Be like, are you willing to die for this? They're like, no, I just want to hang out with my friends and smoke pot. Like, no, but like, you do have to walk it. You have to war game it to DEFCON 1. Be like, if you start this YouTube account, are you willing to die? But really, you do have to ask that. And if you go through that door, first of all, it's a purifying filter. You can't get through if you're not genuine. And if you go through it, but the other thing is if you are genuine and your soul's pure and your heart's intent and you're good with God, it'll be kind of turbulent, but you'll go through the filter just fine. And then you go through, and then you start to realize, oh, you could always die at any moment. It's not just that someone's going to kill you. Like, you might just die from an aneurysm.
Yeah, I mean, you walk out your door, some piece of construction material fall on you, some whack job, he's like cracked out because they let him out of the, they keep releasing him, could just walk around and like start shooting and think that you're like a giant walking gummy bear and go, I don't like that thing. And then car could swerve. I mean, like you never know when your number's up.
Yeah, so you make peace with that, and you can move forward much more confidently. You're like, yeah. So that allows you to be like, Yeah, Tommy, like you and Apollo kept talking about like shit. It's like it is on a much larger theme. It's because you have to be free to do that. Like they might kill me, and that also means someone might just go, "I don't like the vulgarity," and you have to go, "Well, I'm okay with that too." It's not as intense as the CIA killing me, but I don't. If somebody doesn't like the show, go for it, man. Like
Well,
don't watch it.
I mean, there are people that get like triggered, and you have a lot of people like they have these like Christian identities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I totally respect that.
Sure.
Um, but like when the identity like they throw an objection to like one particular thing or like you use a word or something like that, but then you know they want to be blind, like they can't face that answer, like we were talking about yesterday about the fact that they like traffic and torture kids, they eat them, sacrifice them, they experiment on like
Legitimate
large swaths of
satanic
the
pedophile
military, the entire
cannibals.
human.
Like
Oh yeah, and it's worse than that too, because I mean the genetic experimentation, all kinds of weird stuff. I mean,
yeah.
like I listened to some of that show with who was that? Um, oh god, Monarch, the one on Monarch,
Oh.
and
Gray.
yeah, like the worst affront to like individual free will and humanity is to do like those kind of unspeakable things that not only robs them of all the things that go inherent with that, like you rob them of what dignity, of their identity, of their innocence, especially when it's a child, of X, Y, and Z, and then you also turn them into this like fractured collection of psyches that takes another decade or their entire life. You control them throughout that period. They do all the weird experiments with the like psychotronic weapons and things like that. They're doing this to the entire populace to some degree. And then he said, okay, well, it's like that's kind of the crux of it, especially if you look on a good and evil type of filter. Like, okay, so you can be willing to die if you go to that extreme to speak truth and just to be an authentic individual, not sell out, or you at some level have to say I'm going to tacitly accept that. And that's kind of where we are, especially with how public a lot of these things are becoming. I mean, there you go.
And it's also like absurd and at best irrational, at worst malevolently complicit to put stipulations on those things. So you go, all right, so you're okay with this. You've gone through, you did the whole tile thing and that whole decade, and you've changed your life and blah, 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 and you're willing to go up against these people that literally rape, eat, and kill children. Like, just, yes, you're willing to do this, and you're willing to somehow find a way to do it regularly and get on shows and build up an audience and propagate this network and do all these things and be an authentic thing in the middle of all of it, that you're not only authentic, but you're also doing the right thing to the best of your abilities. Did you just say the frick word? Get him out of here. At best, you're stupid. At worst, you're tacitly accepting the evil world, and that was your out. To go, he said fuck, okay, looks like we can't have this guy anymore. Hey, it's also a coincidence that I no longer have this hot potato on my head. I'm not saying that's what happens, but it's at best stupidity. It's at worst complicit cowardness, or very worst complicit evilness. To go, we have all of this. To your doctor, your neurosurgeon comes in at 2 a.m. He's the only guy in the East Coast that can do this operation. He just happens to be at the one you were brought to. Oh, thank God! And he comes in and he has a fucking ankle tattoo, and you go, "What? What's that?" I'm a real hardliner. No tattoos. You deserve to die. That's kind of how I get it. And I'm not.
Well,
I have to.
it gives like a.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say no, and it's also on me. It's like, well, if you want to make money and you do have to clean it up to a degree. That's on me, 100%. But it's like, to have something that's like you feel pure about doing, there's not an evil intent, you're doing the best of your abilities to try to actually make a change in the world and talk about things that people don't want talked, very powerful people don't want talked about. And then you put the stipulation on of like, do you think you could maybe not say bitch so much? It's like, dude, the entire thing is predicated on like the free flow. I'm not saying it's good or bad to swear. It's honestly, I'm apathetic to it. But this is how I talk. That's how I look at swear. I've said this before. I haven't said it in years, but I look at swearing the same way you would look at English. This is just how I talk fluently. And it's the best way to have a fluent exchange of ideas. If every time I'm about to say fuck, I have to go swerve, that's destroying the free flow. I could learn Spanish and slowly do the podcast in Spanish. It would be so bottlenecked and broken down because I'd be like, wait, what's the right verbiage? Versus this is just very, we're not even, you don't think about talking, it's just flowing. And so to put these inhibitors, you go, what do you, I mean, you're just throwing a wrench into the thing. So that's kind of how I get on that, is whatever.
No, I actually agree. I think, like, in my mind, I identify kind of where it comes from sometimes. And so, like, first of all, the whole, like, you have the people who are, they tune out because they're like, you said a bad word.
Sure.
God disapproves. And they're just like, repent. And then they run off and, you know, because they don't like hearing something. Some people just use that as like a filter to say, okay, well, I don't want to face some answer that he was presenting to me, and I just use that.
I don't like the idea that
run.
maybe I'm complicit to human trafficking, so I'm going to say he said bitch, and therefore I'm out.
Yeah, and I mean, that's sometimes that definitely happens. But that's just like, that's a typical psychological thing where people will, like, they don't like something, so they find a reason, whatever it is. There you go. There's my exit door. But, you know, I think the academia, the people, they use that well, because, and it's the same thing if we take it to like an extreme level, that you have like children's programming and they put it on TV, and then people now like babysit their kids with an iPad or like, you know, Netflix or whatever, or they have like all these weird things on YouTube, and it's like children's material because it has the dressing, so like it doesn't have profanity in it, and it's like in nice pretty pictures, and it's presentable for like whatever it claims to be. But then you like actually watch it, and like some of the content that they're sending towards the kids is like horrible. It's like full of like disgusting symbology and like satanic stuff. Yeah, and like weird, like very clear pedophile like symbolism, like really creepy stuff. But it's the same thing, and I think they use.
It's like little Asian girls gagging on lollipops, clearly meant to represent fellatio, and you're like, yeah, but there's no swearing. It's like,
no, it's weird. But see, they use this too with and they use it to like relegate some people, because they'll get the ones who are presentable, like the clean cut ones, and that's their role, is to be up there and like proclaim the name of God and not swear and do all these things. And they say like, look, and they prop them up like the IC does. And they say, look, this is the person, and they do it with all the mega churches and some of these weird pastors and things like that. And they're the ones who are there to like, you know, relay the message. And because it's dressed well, people who are looking for that like type of ideology or that type of content, that type of presentation that they can identify with and engage with, and like just positively feedback their sense of, you know, like being a good ex-soldier, whether it's a Christian or a conservative or whatever. They feed into that, and then they use the rest to dismiss it. The thing where like I had to younger, you go through those phases, especially when you're younger, and you kind of just like discover swearing, and it's like every third word out of your mouth is like an F-bomb or whatever. And at some point, there are two reasons why I think really we do it, or three. One of them is like fit in. It's like kind of an in thing. And that's like usually when you kind of come around to it and your friends do it, so you do it. It's like very simple. Yeah. The other two that are really like where it gets kind of habitual are, one, it's emotionally charged. And regardless of like what someone's literal, you know, like on the spot translation of what you're saying is, it's just emotionally charged, which is why more people typically swear more when they're upset. The other thing is when you are like in that flow and you start swearing, it's because I think like to some degree it's kind of laziness, because there would be more vocabulary that would actually more like articulately describe what you're trying to say. Yeah. But instead of interrupting the flow and like trying to search for that word, you just insert the profanity.
Yeah.
So because in your head, it's just like, I don't need to disrupt or like devote any energy to actually articulating something. And so that's when I was younger, I was like, okay, there's a point where like, I'm just not like, I'm not using my intelligence. I'm not accurately like figuring out how to use language past the level of like a Tinker Toy,
Mm.
and like so that was a point where I said, okay,
No,
I
that's
should
fair.
probably like
No,
because as soon as you limit it, then all of a sudden you realize like, oh, there are more words in the English language.
yeah.
It's just because you get like easy at substituting.
I am
we do it in a lot of ways in our
I am divinely irritated at a subcutaneous level. My rage is inexplicable. My discontent with you is, oh, buddy, it's a presentation heretofore not experienced. No, that's fair. That is fair.
There you go.
Yeah. But then it's like, how many? I mean, I get I'm being exaggerated, but now it's like now this guy's just trying to impress everyone with the thesaurus. Like, get out. What's the point? You know? But
well, I mean, that's the level though. It's
yeah,
like it's just a difference between substitution and like being and like being grandiose and like we all know those people, and some of them, believe it or not, very small. I think a very like small minority actually do speak that way because they actually have a mastery
1% of 1% of 1% of people.
Yes, the rest of them, they're just like they speak and you're just like, oh fuck.
I saw like an Andrew Tate tweet a couple.
That's like
months
the
ago.
second F-bomb I've dropped today. But like those are the people I'm like, nah, dude.
I saw an Andrew Tate tweet a couple months ago. I don't know anything about him. I don't care. But it was just like he said something, and I think he said propitious, which all the comments.
Perspicacity. No, I've heard a shtick. He's like, I have unmatched perspicacity, and I am undefatigable in all. That's what it was. In all realms of human experience, and it's why the Matrix is doing everything that they can. And you're like, dude, you're
everyone in the comments was like,
trafficking
nice
op, dude. Shut up,
bro. Nice thesaurus. And I remember this because I wrote you have to write a personal statement to get in medical school. You have to pitch why you're the best, and you have to limit it to. And it was a great compliment because one of my buddies read. He was probably the smartest person I ever met, and he read that and he went like, "That was maybe the most brilliant self pitch I've ever read." I was like, "Thank you." And he goes, "Second page, propitious. Do you know what that word means, or did you use a thesaurus?" And it was the only word I used at thesaurus, and I never even did that before in papers. I just did it to spice up the med school, and I was like, it was so glaring. It was like a sore thumb, and he was like, "You didn't use that," and I was like, "Take it out, sorry." I was like ashamed. I was like a dog. I was like, sorry. Like you found me pissing in the living room. Like, I'll go outside. Sorry. Like I was just. So that's why I also try not to like, unless I'm like 100% sure, I don't even use a word because it's just so clear. My perspicacity is like, will you shut the fuck up? Like, will you fucking legitimately hang yourself by perspicacity? Yeah, it's.
Well, but see, there's actually a funny thing though, because like it's little examples like that, even from someone who doesn't speak like that all the time, because they like want to feel like God's gift to language to the rest of the dumb peons, because those people really irritate me. You can tell when they do it, but it is kind of funny though when you see like simple examples like that. Because here's an experiment for you. Like literally pick like 1-2 words a day and just do one. And just use one and be like, okay, I'm going to use this. And I guarantee you within like 48 hours, you will just all of a sudden realize that you could use that word, fairly often. Okay. And if you start to do that, you will get people that they go, like it throws people for a loop because the lexicon has become so small. That most people, especially now, like you look at our education versus like, the 1800s where like people were supposedly retarded, and you look at their like middle school exams and it makes our college were like our university students look like idiots.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, dude, what is history?
Child laborers were speaking like fucking like Oedipus or like Odysseus. Like
well, no, I mean, no, really, the difference is huge. Even you go back 50 years, and like now we can't like use cursive. No one knows how to write cursive, and like simple things like that. But I mean, the education standards are massively retarded, and I mean that in like the actual definition. Like retarded isn't slowed, like did not develop.
Yeah.
Like the medical term retarded. I don't even mean that colloquially.
The legitimately.
And it shows you like how literal people actually expand their ability to describe the world around them and to articulate their thoughts, because little words that really aren't like impressive, it throws people for a loop. And then it's not really a wonder why people have such narrow skill sets anymore, and why people don't like start to go around and figure out things because it's become just axiomatic in our culture that you don't really go outside of the things that you're comfortable with and that you learn. And maybe you get like a work study, or they used to do internships and things like that for a typical skill for a job, but you don't have these like Renaissance individuals anymore where like you just go learn. It used to be much more common for people to be, like they'd just be a poet on the side, or they would just be some woodworker, but then they were also a politician, and they were a virtuoso violin player.
Yeah.
But they were, something in their community. I mean, it used to be much more normal. And part of that is because time wasn't so, consumed with like X and all these different social media things. And we didn't have the 9 to 5, which really turns into like a, 7 to 9 with a commute, and especially with the economy. And then people need 2 jobs. So now you don't have single parent households, and or you don't have single earner households. So, I mean, like a lot has changed that's led to that, but people are very, very segmented, and language is one of the most entertaining in some ways instances of seeing that, because it takes very little for someone to go, like, what was that? You see the little twitch, or you see like the loading sign, like, or it's like the same thing when you talk about, some of these topics that the culture has been brainwashed to, to just accept and believe.
No, but it's also no. It's I'd never thought about that. If you limit the way in which you express yourself, you do kind of limit like what you feel you can be interested in or explore. And then there's also like, and it's I don't think for me or for most people, but for maybe younger men, there is like the coolness behind it. You don't want to be a nerd, but if you hear someone like what you just said, where you're like, yeah, just find a new word and just see how many times you can use it in a couple days, and it just turns into some. You go, oh, like it is. You can learn. It's cool to learn, and I think that's a huge part of it too. Is like a limitation to where I can't, and that's even, and not to go on to a whole, because it's been said 100 trillion times, but it's like that's the whole glorification of degrees. So it's like, well, I don't have a degree in that, so I can say, shut the fuck up, dude. Just learn. Just learn. Just make shit up until somebody corrects you. That's a way of learning.
Yeah, the appeal to authority has been so painfully weaponized against the population that it's like crippled people's ability to navigate the world and actually affect any change, especially in political movements and in their communities, like in schools and things like that, because that's their default. It's like, well, here's the authority on this one. You're not an expert. You're not a doctor. You're not a lawyer. You're not this. So please sit down, shut up. We appreciate your comments that we've given you 60 seconds to make, as we use your tax dollars as we see fit to indoctrinate and mutilate your children. But please go sit down. We will not listen to anything you said, but we did have you on a live stream public speaking, so we could pretend that we give a shit about you and your existence, and that you're actually a member of this community. And that's just the whole thing. They do it online. They do it everywhere. That's why, like Congress, all these things, it's just scripted bullshit.
Oh, it's
so
all
that they can make you think that there's actually a debate. There's no actual debate.
That there's actual friction. There's actual friction.
None of the
Dude,
political debates, the presidential debates, Congress. It's all bullshit. It's just bread and circuses. They make you think that some people somewhere are actually arguing about something.
It's so you shut the fuck up at home.
You have a few people who get in. They're like, I actually care, and they're like, well, for the little ones on the side who actually do show up with something, it doesn't matter because the rest of them aren't going to play ball anyway. So there can be that one, like, annoying dude who actually comes in. It's like the annoying mother at a school board. She comes in, she's like, no, you guys are idiots. Here's a bunch of research, X, Y, and Z. And then they don't care because the rest of them, who are all just there to play the show and act like there's some actual, like process going on, instead of the, just the grinding machine of the, political dark PACs and all kinds of stuff that are, telling these people what to vote for and giving them talking points in the backdoor deals that they're making to get stock in the defense contractors that are going to be involved in the next war or whatever, or the next purchase of missiles that we're going to send to some other enemy of the United States, or whatever gender clinic is going to be opening up in the same county that they want to open one in the school district for, that someone happens to know the guy who's going to lead the clinic, who also has the company that like built the labs and is going to get some percentage from the hospital that it's partnered with, so that they can tell your children in 6th grade that if they're having a bad day, they might be tranny, and then they can get a bunch of revenue from like prescribing them drugs and antidepressants, which will then turn them into lifelong customers. I mean, like that's the whole deal. That's all that's going on. And then, but then they pretend that because they have meetings that they have public comments for, that you actually have a place there.
The facade.
And that's what needs to be dismantled. Yeah. And here's the thing, just my last point, because I'm going to lose this, is the language is what happens. And I'll use chess because Andrew Tate makes me laugh. And you know, I think isn't his logo for his like shit university like the White Knight or something, which is funny because it's like the trope of like what pedos use is like white knighting or something. Where what I think it's close to it, where like they pretend to be the loving boyfriend. I think it's called something like that. Anyways, you know, definitely not what he did. But when you like rob people of language and they have no ability to express their thoughts or describe reality, what happens is you basically like on a chessboard of life, and everyone in their own little chessboard on the grander, you know, big obnoxious one that is mostly a simulation anyways, the way that society runs. And they've been instituting AI to like rewrite history and erase it like they've done like every 100 years or so. Is you basically like take your piece, which is your game piece, which, you know, also you could look at like your physical body because they make everyone sick and unhealthy. So your game piece is already screwed up and most people don't even know what it looks like anymore. And you take that and like effectually when they remove language and your ability or incentive to learn anything new and speak on anything that they deem you not an authority, they take you from like a queen or a bishop and they turn you into a pawn. And so that's what they want, is you to be that, which is, you know, on mass, extremely valuable piece on the board when they work together in concert. But you as an individual divided as a pawn, you can only move straight forward. They define the yellow brick road that you're on, you know, to go back to programming languages they've indoctrinated and embedded in our culture and society and our, you know, media so well, is all those little ways, they just give you that. And then in many ways, they set it up. So, well, you can attack this way. Like you can go after ballot harvesting, you know, with the voting machines. You could go ahead and collect signatures, get people to register to vote. Don't worry about the machines, which is in many ways like those are the rules to the game. So they get to define the rules. They do so without telling you. Most people, because they don't have the time or the energy, they don't know where to look. They don't even know that the rules have changed. And then you're stuck as your pawn. You get to move one square at a time, whereas they're using an army full of queens, and you don't even realize that the chessboard that you think is your reality is like not even one square on one square of a much bigger board that they don't want you to know about. And as soon as you start talking about it, they go, well, he said an F-bomb, so forget about him. We're going to go talk to this guy now. Public comments are over. That's it. That's like in my mind, in a nutshell, that's how they've relegated everybody to being not in this little pawns. And you think that even like the white versus black means something. It doesn't, because that's not how this game works. Because they'll use color and camouflage and all kinds of things, and they'll define for you without even realizing it what side of the board you think you're on, and none of it's real.
And another thing is like the art, the facade, the image of I'm sure you see it on every side, but I mean, I'll just take being a more right-leaning guy myself, I'll just take like the front page of Rumble. You go on it and it's just always, it doesn't matter. It's like this what I'm about to say is really applicable to any day for any news story for the last 10 years. Pelosi slams Donald Trump over new policy change. Senator so-and-so grills greedy CEO. These are all pressure valves, steam valves, to where if you didn't see any of it, you might become so disillusioned that you load a gun. But when you see it, and I'm not saying that's the end point legally, but when you see this stuff and you go, oh man, Elon Musk really dumped on AOC. Man, he wrecked that lib. You don't follow that thread anymore. It's being taken care of. Man, Dan Bongino said that Kamala Harris is done. Oh, man, what else is happening? Well, what is going on? Even on ratio. But what happened? Did you address the thing? The thing we're ratioing, we're talking about $100 billion went to Ukraine. It's not accounted for. We gave them 177. They said they could only account for 77. That's 1/10 of $1 trillion. What happened? Corrupt Dems. Hey, if the Dems didn't have double standards, they'd have none. Okay, where's the 10th of $1 trillion? What? It just, if you don't have any of this though, you might start talking amongst yourselves about, hey, what is going on? Where's all the fucking money go? Where are all these people going? Why can't? But when you see it, and it's got 100,000 views streamed 7 hours ago, you go, oh man, they're getting grilled. And then you stop following it because it's being done. Someone's grilling someone. And it doesn't even have to be
Yep.
that they're all working together and it's all theater. It can still be organic theater. It can still, there doesn't always have to be a guy behind all the curtains. It can just be there. Senator Smith wants to say that these greedy Dems are, they gave FEMA money to immigrants. And then, Republican Sheriff Bob Johnson came out and said, I'm going to get my soundbite. You liberals are anti American. And then fucking, Allah Akbar from Minnesota is going to come out and go, this is white supremacy. They're all just going out saying their things so they can take that clip back and tell everyone they said it. None of them give a shit if their bullets land. They're all just lobbing artillery shells to tell their buddies, I fired an artillery shell. You're like, did you hit a target? You're like, shut up, pussy. I fired one. Look at me. I'm an American. And no one cares. And then people watching it go, there's artillery shells firing. This war is really popping off. Pressure valve. You no longer care. I don't need to worry about it. Inflation's rising, yeah, but Trump said our inflation's less. And it's like Trump said he's taking Gaza, dunk on the liberals. And it's like, weren't we just 6 months ago screaming about U.S. imperialism in Ukraine because Biden was doing it? Don't we care about that? Man, we're going to go take Gaza. We're going to make Gaza great. All of these things are just, it's like when a bus is slowing down and you hear it. It's just let it all out, slow the impact. And why do you have brake pads? Why do you let it out slowly? So you don't feel the jerking motion that nothing is happening. And then even now, it's like, well, what are you and I doing by pointing that out? Me and Apollo really called out that nothing's happening. Well, what do you do? We're not doing anything. So it's like, I don't know. Really, it all to just like keep wargaming it out to the nth degree. Like earlier, like if you're gonna start a YouTube account, you got to be ready to die for it. The war game always kind of comes back to like, do I believe in God? Yes. Am I doing right in His eyes? I'm trying. Okay. Don't worry about the rest of it. You still gotta participate. You still gotta, Are you trying your best? Yeah, I'm trying my best in the eyes of Christ to be a good person and to put others before me. Okay. All right. Keep moving forward. That's where it always kind of I hit like the loading wheel and the screen slowly freezes and it goes not responding. I go I don't know how to deal with the fucking Congo hemorrhagic fever biolab in Sierra Leone that was half funded by Walmart and the CIA. I don't know, and I don't know who's behind it. And is it 4D chess by Trump or is it a treasonous act by I don't know. Lord, give me guidance and let me you guide the boat. I'll row. I'll do the work. Like that's where I kind of come back to so much is short circuits and just like the loading wheel. And I go, I don't know. I'm gonna try to put my best foot forward, and I I feel like I did the right thing revolving around COVID. I try once a month to have on the military guys from ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. They go and they don't do awareness. They literally rescue trafficked kids. They go in with like I don't even know if it's legal, but like they go in with guns and just get the kids from these like trap houses. I have them on and I make sure to like plug their thing. I go, okay, that's something good I'm doing. Put a little, I put one marble in like the good jar, and then I also try to call my mom every night, and then I try to play some video games with some friends and laugh. And I go, all right, I'm like you said earlier, do I become a martyr? And it's like you can, but it's also God also didn't put you on earth just to suffer. Like, God's gonna be like, you did the right thing, you fought against this, that, the other thing, you did pretty good here, blah blah blah. And he might also be like, yeah, but you never once went to McDonald's. You're like, yeah, it was a distraction. He was like, I'm really proud of McDonald's. I put a lot of work into that. The Hamburglar, I thought you'd love it. And you're like, I didn't know that was yours. He's like, I made Call of Duty. You can go and just scream the N-word with impunity. And you're like, I thought it was a distraction. And he's like, no, that was also part of my garden that I created for you. Do the right thing, but you never once jerked off after an all-nighter. And you're like, fuck, I guess I did. And so, like, that's, you know.
Well, there's like
he's like
a few.
Yeah.
I was trying not to spit out that drink as you said that. But there's a few types of people that I think are like inherently, if you think for like the average person, there's a few terrifying types of people, right? And one of them is the individual who's like solely mission focused. Like there are no distractions. You can come to them with like whatever emotional thing and X and Y and Z, and they just be like, don't care, laser focused. All right, that's a terrifying type of person to be in that space, and like that's the type of thing that's valued in the military, right?
Sure.
And then you have the other type of terrifying person, which is like the dude who's off it and he's like purely in the moment, purely like emotion and reaction, like some crackhead tripping on like, DXM, and he's carrying a knife. And that's just total unpredictability.
Yeah.
There are no boundaries. There's no nothing. Like those are terrifying people. Like if you want to know someone who like you don't want to fight, it's that dude. Now, maybe you have like a 50-pound weight advantage on them because, they haven't eaten in like 3 weeks. But those are terrifying people. And they're terrifying like psychologies when you get to like criminal and, like people who want to do harm to others because they are completely unpredictable. That's really difficult to deal with. That's a terrifying type of individual. And then when you go like kind of, if you're going to merge those two things together, you have people who are on average, like those are the two extremes. You have like almost automaton. And then you have just nuts, to use a term. And then you have your more average in the middle, like within the bell curve, right? And you have those people who are reactive. They probably struggle to get stuff done and whatever in X, Y, and Z. They might show up late to work. They're just not like focused. They're not tuned in. Maybe it's like ADD. I'm not going to get in why, but you have those types of people, and then you have people who are really on it and they still feel things, but they're not automatons. I think the most terrifying type of individual or like state, the like way to be, is to be able to feel everything like with the full weight of it. To have like not be that like automaton who's programmed in a way, like they don't experience that emotional reaction to it.
Yeah, they've turned
They
it
can
off.
see something horrible, and sometimes you have to be there. Like imagine you're going in and rescuing those kids. When you walk in and you see like 3 kids who may have just been abused or are like tied up on a bed, is you can't immediately like break down and freak out.
No, you
have to like
go
part of you
kill.
You just got to park that.
Yeah.
And then get them out, deal with the threats, whatever. Maybe someone just got their head blown off, you don't know. There are places you just need to like turn that off and whatever. The most terrifying person I think would be someone who can experience all of that in real time but not be swayed from the action that they're carrying out. And I don't know that I've ever met someone who can do that. And that is, I think, what I would like to.
Yeah.
That is what I am like seeking ultimately for myself, because I've been very much on the like emotionless. Like if I'm gonna be honest, there was decades in my life that I would say I probably experienced like next to no like primary emotion because of things that I had gone through earlier in my life and just ways that I had kind of accepted as how I have to survive.
Yeah.
And then I've gone through periods where because I had like held all those things in for so long, I couldn't stop that emotion from like being experienced.
Yeah.
And it was like I was just getting hit with a tidal wave and I wasn't really prepared for it. And you can't, when that happens, you can't plan for it, you can't plan around it. And whatever you're doing at that time, unless you're prepared to handle that emotion and to like experience that, it really derails a whole lot of shit. Like it's very hard to think in X, Y, and Z. And I think if like that were going to be my version of like enlightenment on a day-to-day basis, it would be to be able to handle the full emotional experience of whatever happens and however I react to it authentically in that moment without being unbalanced and still being able to execute on the plan like as I'm walking through that ocean wave, so to speak, of whatever it is. And like that for my sake, that would be like what I would like to help others be like. Like you mentioned the trafficking thing, and I'd like to applaud you for that. I actually at some point would like to know more about those guys who rescue kids because that's going to be one of my like main things in 2025 is victims of trafficking and then survivors and how we can actually get them and help them.
I have their link in every episode. That's
if you awesome. I'd like to chat to you about that afterwards. Yeah. But that's my big deal because we have, it's kind of the same thing when we talk about like the people who go, cool, well, the power's being given back to the people. And it's like, okay, but you guys don't know how to run shit yourselves. So now what? Like, let's say Donald Trump said, here you go, keys of the kingdom. Country's yours now. Then what? What are you going to do now? Because everyone's going to be like, oh.
It's about time we flew the jet.
We don't know how to self-govern. Yeah, and then you're going to be like, cool, but it's going to be like a DEI hire on a national scale. It's like, do you know how to fly a jet? Do you know how to run your community? Because there are some who do. But like on average, the baseline for like having a clue what is going up politically and how funds are allocated and how the government runs on a local basis, let alone federal, it's next to nothing. So what do you do now? And it's the same thing when we talk about like save the kids, X, Y, and Z. Okay, so let's imagine tomorrow, boom, light switch comes on, and then all of a sudden you see all the traffic victims. We have day in, day out, how many, what happened, where they came from, the people start getting arrested, people in high profiles go down. And then we just have victims coming forward and being rescued and thrown in the public eye, like hundreds of children there, 100 over here, 2,000 that just got brought over from, wherever in Taiwan, who knows? And then you go, cool, what do you do with them? Like, what do you do with those kids, really? And then like, how does the public react to knowing that there's like a substantial number of people in your community or in your state or like people that you know on a daily basis who were trafficked as a kid, who have DID, who have X, Y, and Z, and all of a sudden you have to like question, well, how was I like coexisting with this person? What does that mean on like a cultural, societal level? And then on top of that, you have people who are like, they've been DOD experiments their entire lives. And I mean, they're like connected to all kinds of stuff and people exist who could do things you didn't think possible. And now we have kind of like another national like existential crisis. And so that's kind of like my question is like, where do we go when that happens? Because I think that's going to come very soon.
In defense of the the free of the children, I would say, just to play devil's advocate, let's cross that bridge when we get there. Like triage first, free the kids. Like okay.
No, I agree. I'm not just as a
devil's advocate. No, I get you. And then it's like, but what do we do with it? No, sure, that is a can of worms. But like, there's also the triage thing of like, again, think about the guy going in, sees the kids chained up, covered in blood or semen. And, hey, nope, hey, get the guy with the gun. Get that, then you figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's a huge thing to kind of get to that, that middle world. I kind of had the same experience. I was like, I was a legitimate automaton in college. Like I did just nothing. I was just studying. I mean, in between classes, I had flashcards, so I wouldn't waste the 5-minute walk. And then after that, deciding I didn't want to go to med school and then not knowing what to do with myself, followed up by the, existential crisis of losing a brother. It was just several years of just wave after wave of I didn't even know how to turn it off if I wanted to. It wasn't like, okay, I need to unpack this. It was like, unpack. It's like my bag's over there, another wave's hitting me, like fucking there's an oil tanker flipping over. I gotta dodge that. And then the only way to like, it's like, all right, well, if I'm stuck in this world of constant emotion, you start to learn to fight back with emotion. So that's where just, like you said, dextromethorphan, that's where cough syrup, that's where Xanax, that's where fucking alcohol, that's where weed, that's where all this shit comes in. Cause you're like, if I'm in this world of emotion, let's fight back with like synthetic emotion. That's another path to hell. And you have to try to come back to somewhere in the center. And man, even in most of them are demons from hell, so it's kind of hard to feel sympathy for them. But I mean, to extend our heart, that's probably, they're all demons from hell. That being said, that's got to be hard to be president. Obama, but whoever, whatever your five letters, shut up. So a lot of them go and kiss a baby. They snip a ribbon and open a new airport. They get a classified briefing that our intel was wrong. We just vaporized a kindergarten. And hey, now you got to go host dinner with I don't know, some people from Syria. And you can't go out there crying. You got to be a man about that. Tighten the tie and go out there. And in your mind, you're just thinking about the grainy footage you just saw of 100 kids getting hit with a missile. That's got to be difficult. Now, a lot of them are directly benefiting from it, so it's hard to. But just for
just on those
the thought
points,
exercise of at least just, yeah.
No, I mean, but here's the rub, right? You have like all these people who are like, cool, you sold out, you're in the club, whatever. Now, I bring up the what do we do with them because there are a lot of instances of like you rescue some kids and then they don't have anywhere to put them, so they throw them back in CPS. They get trafficked.
Yeah, they get trafficked.
That's like really where it's going. It's not like don't do the triage first because we don't know what to do. Like no, save the kids, then worry about it, then worry about that problem. But like then we already have that problem now where it's like cool, we saved some kids. Now what do we do with them? And then there are a lot of scenarios where they just go right back into some other system. And cool, we pulled them out of one circle of hell and they got dragged into another, and no one even knows about it. So there's where one line of thought comes from.
Yeah. No.
But the like you talk about the people who like sold out. Like think about the ones who get into some profile or some high profile position. Like they become a senator, they become whatever. And it's like cool, we need the blackmail. And maybe some of them they like drug them up and they send them with a hooker and they don't remember, but then they have a video of them having sex with like some lady girl, whatever. But what about are there cases? Bet there are where let's say they take them and it's like the very in your face conscious choice where okay, hey look, here's a little child, and they bring him in some facility and they say rape the kid and they have a camera set up. This is gonna like do it or you die, and then they have like their wife or kids tied up on a chair on the corner of the room. They say, yeah, I mean, hey, you wanted to be this, right? So either do it or they're next.
There's not
something
a middle
like
ground
that
of like you can walk
yeah
away.
I mean
it's you either become a controlled thing and you're gonna get everything you've ever wanted, or we kill your family. There's no like, or you can walk away.
one thing, and they'll be like, even like, ah, don't worry about it. The kid's used to it. They do this all day. He doesn't know any different, but your family, I mean, I don't know. How are you guys
They're like, the kid's 5, he has no consciousness anyway. We gave him morphine. We're gonna kill him after that. Or your baby boy's.
No, I mean, there's a lot of crushing realities there. But then at that point, like, what do you go? Okay,
what
like,
do you do?
There is like some level of empathy, and then it goes, okay, so what point do we make it like possible for these people to actually speak out? And then it's a moral choice on them. Like, do I admit to this for the sake of something greater than me? But I mean, that's I think where we are in a lot of this, and I think because they've controlled the media and political discourse and they've silenced people so well. People don't see avenues for this because whistleblowers get offed or they get ignored. Like we've seen in Congress, like we've seen over and over again. The whistleblowers die or they get laughed off as like some lunatic. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's like the whistleblower culture is almost more toxic than like the average political conversation, which I think is the real problem that we have.
What do you do to take you to some facility? And it's because a lot of times they don't. This is something I didn't realize till years ago, but like, yeah, they don't dig up blackmail on you. They make sure you're blackmailed, before you get in. Like that's
Oh
a
yeah.
it's like we don't
Oh yeah.
shoot down missiles that go awry. We have detonation switches on them in case they go fucking off course and towards the city. You don't get to become, whatever, a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee unless you have a deactivation switch. Probably a little more morally gray if it's like, yeah, they had you fuck a 17-year-old. It's like, no, that is still, but like, okay, okay, or maybe they get you cheating on your wife. It's like, all right, that's not good, but all right. What happens if it's like the rarefied air of like your president or you're like the fucking chairman of the Fed, or like where they don't fuck around? This isn't like local elections. This is like, all right, you're heading up the new alliance between Saudi Arabia and the United States, and the CIA is going to go do a bunch of false flags. Are you in or not? What do you kill your family or you're going to fuck this kid? And by the way, if you don't fuck the kid, we're going to kill the kid anyway.
Yeah, I mean, think about some of the kids. I mean, here, I'll tell you what they do. You take, like, sometimes uh, I see some people commenting on some of these things. They're like, how do you get someone to do that? Whatever. Like, okay, well, especially if they get them young, like you learn by modeling, right? I mean, even we talked about the word role model, but really, if you break it down, it's just a model of something. We'll call it a role, right? So it doesn't need to apply to everybody or to a specific person, but you are modeling at all times something. Now, what that is, subjective. But take a kid, you torture the shit out of them, you show them a bunch of horrible things, death and blah, 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 blah. You make them like, dissociate. They don't know what's going on anyways. And they're very impressionable. Variety of other techniques that they use too. And then, like, let's just say you want them to, like, be a killer. And then they're going to be put on some track to go into special forces, and they'll be like some Delta asset, whatever. And you want to do some other experiments with them. But you take them in there, and then you say, cool, you kill a bunch of kids, you do this, maybe you make them kill a kid, put a knife in their hands, whatever. And if they say no, then you just start slitting the throats of like 5 kids standing next to them. Sorry for the audience, but,
No,
I mean, this is the reality of what happens. And then, no, see, but then how do you get them to like go to that level? And here's like one example. You take like dogs, and you freak the kid out, torture him, throw him to a certain state, bring out another child, and you've already reinforced this to some degree, and then you have a bunch of dogs ripping apart, like tearing apart in front of him. And you force this child who's already been traumatized and like, made to do certain things. So they're already at a certain point. And you say, watch this essentially. And then like 3 pit bulls eat some like tied up 4-year-old in front of them. And you just let them watch that. And then you say, okay, cool. You have a choice now. Do you want to be the child or the dog? Because dogs get fed and children get eaten. And then you give them a choice, and you put another victim in front of them, and you say, are you the dog or the whatever? You give them the trigger, boom. But I mean, this is what they do, and it applies to like society as well too. It's what they did with COVID. It's like, are you the dog or the child? And it's like, do you get a job? Do you get to go to work? Do you get, or do you follow orders? It's the same programming, maybe with a different intention that they do in the military.
It's mass MK Ultra. And then even on simpler things, it's just like, do you want to stay on Facebook? Stop talking about COVID.
Yeah. Oh, really? Well, we demonetized your video because you said vaccine too many times. Are you the dog or are you the child? Are you a dog of the military? Are you a dog of the state, dog of the media, dog of the socials? Are you the dog of the company that you work for, who's a restaurant that makes you want to wear a mask? Are you a dog of King Supers who needs you to follow the lines and all that stupid shit so that you can go shopping? Very simple. Dog or child?
Man, it does, and I always try not to be like the Jesus freak, because having grown up Catholic and then being an atheist for a while and then agnostic and now coming back to Christ at I don't know, 3-4 years ago, I always knew that, I mean, like walking around South Georgia in college and you'd see some preacher that would be like, you're going to hell, and I'd be like, dude, I'm not even opposed to like Christianity, but I'd be like, you're just driving people away. Like, I wasn't even some militant Reddit atheist. I was just like, you're just driving people away from a sales tactic. So I've never wanted to be that person. And even now, I'll be like, coming back to Jesus helped me. I'm never going to tell someone what to do. I think that's the importance of free will. But when you walk it out to these nth degrees, where it's not just like, are you gonna get banned from YouTube? It's like, are you gonna watch a child get eaten on your neck? You are put in. I mean, between a rock and a hard place. I don't know how you can really make either decision, to be honest. To either fuck the kid and not have your family killed, or to have your family killed and not fuck the kid. I don't really know how you can survive going through either choice without belief in God. Because it's either I'm saving my family, God, you can see into my heart how sorry I am, but I have a choice. I'm going to save my son, I'm sorry. Or it can be, I'm not, and please forgive me for having my family killed. I don't know how you survive going through that, either one, without, I mean, being a psychopath would be easy because you would just choose the one you wanted, but there are a lot of things where I kind of come, and I'll never be the person that shoves God down people's throat. Not only do I think it's stupid and a bad sales tactic, I also think the reason God gave us free will is because he wants us to freely choose. So if you have free will, I'm kind of fucking up that whole thing by me forcing people to do stuff. So that's also why I don't push God on people. But man, a lot of things do kind of come back to you war game it all the way up. You do reach a certain threshold where you can really only advance with belief in God.
Yeah.
Not even like as a pitch, just as like let's pretend this is a video game. I'm like, you do reach you can do certain things. Okay, I survived censorship. You can survive censorship without believing God, sure. You reach a point where it's like, hey, how do you go throughout the rest of your life knowing that you kept your wife and kids alive because you fucked a toddler? How do you not kill yourself just to escape the trauma?
I mean, how do you look at your family?
How do you do anything? How do you tie your shoes?
Well, and then I mean, you look at some of those empty people up there. They go on, and they say their shtick on,
And you wonder,
whatever issue, and then they vote, and you're like, I mean,
what's behind when there's nothing
I mean,
behind
that's
the
hard.
eyes, you go,
Yeah,
that's hell isn't a lake of
and
fire.
really, and the thing is, no, and you want to know, like, just because I gotta run. I appreciate you having me on. This was fun.
I know we're very deep into child fucking, and everyone's really
yeah, it's a great
everyone
time to jump
checked
off.
out 30 minutes ago. It's just you and I screaming. Everyone stopped watching 30 minutes ago.
I know.
No, you're good.
We should just talk about Norovirus.
Yeah, just light.
But that's really like ultimately there's the choice that you're gonna have. Like, okay, have you been brought to a moment like that where you have to be the one to pull trigger, or like have you ever been? And this is like a metaphor, so obviously I'm not asking everyone like this specifically, but like, have you ever been the kid who's been told he has a choice to be a wolf or not, and then find God is what I would tell you. And what do you do from there? Can you accept that and accept that that doesn't make you unredeemable, or at the very least, if you can't believe that, capable of doing something good for other people so that others don't have to go through that ever again? If you're one of those people who've had to make that choice to save your family or whatever, and you're in one of those positions, what is your like ultimate legacy going to be? Are you going to be the one who just continued to do that, or are you going to maybe say something or provide something to somebody who can end that system? And then if at some point you come to a moment where you're given a choice like that, are you able to like listen to your, we'll call it your inner self, right? Or to God, and say, what is it that I can do the most good with in this moment? And I don't really know if there's a better answer in a moment like that. Because I mean, it's like the Spider-Man moment. It's like, save this dude or like jump for Mary Jane. There are moments like that for a lot of people. So, how do you react the best and just also be able to forgive yourself when inevitably you do have, questions about why you chose something. And I mean, at the end of the day, we're all here. We all get the, same opportunity to experience with whatever cards we've been dealt. But did you learn from it? Because I mean, nobody's perfect, and we definitely have some tough choices sometimes. But if you go to sleep at night, and even if it's uncomfortable, did you do what you truly thought was the best thing to do if you were looking back after you've already died? And if you didn't at some point in the past, would you do it again? What choice would you make now that you've already been given a chance to see the precipice there between those two choices? That's all I would say. And definitely see God, because only if you really accept that there are things greater than you, even if it's just, society, or like what good or what ability to enliven free thought or independence you could have through a podcast like you're doing, Tommy. If you look at least some of the time through that lens, you have the opportunity to do some real good, I think. So I would just tell everyone listening not to forget that you have, in many ways, ultimate power over what you do here. And, if you're proud and, you think that you're doing something good for others, and keep doing that, then it doesn't matter who they tell you to associate with or not, or what they tell you about yourself or about your ability to do so. Screw them. Do what your ultimate calling is telling you, even if you're not entirely sure what it looks like. Find the direction. What direction is it that you think you're going to find it in, and go that way, because you won't regret it if you go that way, regardless of what you might find along the way.
Yeah, that's what I'd also tell people is once you go through all these thoughts, but everything we've talked about in the last 2 hours is you can go, all right, I'm sold. I want to do the right thing, but I don't even know what the right thing is. Start moving in the direction. Don't go, I'm going to wait. No. That's your brain giving you an out. Start moving in the direction. You go, I think it's this way. And just start going. And you won't.
Yeah, and if it's new, if you don't know what the right thing is, it's probably something you haven't done before. So like if you're doing, if you're like, okay, I'm gonna try to do the right thing, but you're doing the same thing day in and day out, you're probably not in the right direction.
You'll know it's the right thing.
It'll be new.
You'll know it's the right thing when you did it, and it was scary to do, and you fucked up, and you didn't do it well. But afterwards, you go, that felt good. I'm kind of glad I did that. That's it. That's the right thing.
Yeah.
For the next show, for the people that maybe thought this was a little too heavy, we will be talking about Mr. Beast and the Kardashians. So we're gonna bring that IQ level right down to the single digits for the next show. So if this one was too heavy for you guys, don't worry. The next one will be functionally retarded.
That's always good. Well, hey, thanks again, man. I appreciate being on.
And, that was awesome, man. I appreciate it.
Good luck.
All right, brother. Thank you. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you for watching. Paul, later, buddy. Peace.